Eight years ago, Swapfire twisted your mind on Wii U. And right now, it's officially back in action on Steam. Beam into the mind-bending world of Swapfire and duke it out in the greatest game show of 2139. Shoot your opponents to swap spots so you can outwit and outmaneuver each other in Swapfire's arenas. Fly solo or with up to 4 players via split screen or Steam remote play together. And keep the contest going with 9 game modes to unlock. Scan the QR code on your screen to secure Swapfire today.
I can't help but be racist. It's true.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
No offense, David Jaffe, but that's bullshit.
It's true. It is bullshit. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. It is nice to see everybody. This is kind of a test show. We are back officially tomorrow. 2 streams a day, 1 in the morning, 1 later in the afternoon. We have a brand new producer starting with us. You may have seen him online from time to time. Tech Protect is going to be working with us for a little bit, trying to get the show up to speed. Much, much appreciated. That'll be fun. That's starting tomorrow as well. How was your New Year's? Okay, but I want to tell you what this is real quick. Then we'll shoot the shit. Then we'll get into topics. But So this is, we've been testing out a couple of new formats for the morning show, and that's just going to give us a couple of options. So Gabbing and Games will always be the afternoon show, lots of chat, call-ins, news of the day about video games, and then the morning show is going to probably cycle between this, which is kind of, you know, me diving into specific game topics with you guys that aren't so much about the news, more philosophical design issues, whatever. We'll be doing a show where we prep the afternoon show, the Gavin and Games show. We might also just do gameplay. So there'll be about 4 or 5 things we cycle depending on the news of the day. We're testing out this one real quick, and then we're back tomorrow morning, and we'll go from there. So, but I hope you had a great, safe, happy New Year. I did. Well, you know what? I tell you what. By the time it all wrapped up, I was ready for it to be over. So December 29th, I guess, we went to a place in San Diego called Candy Cane Lane, and that is where literally, I'm stunned that this is legal, but I guess it is. The Homeowners Association says, look, you can move here, but you are obligated to decorate your house. And I'm like, that can't be true, but I've been told it's true by people in the know. And it is this beautiful Christmas decorated light porn of just, you know, row after row and street after street of Christmas lights and very specialty stuff. There was like an Avengers one. There was a Charlie Brown Christmas one. Like people make, you know, wood cutouts and animations. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. So I was feeling a little depressed that night afterwards because I'm like, oh, I love the holidays. I can't stand that they're coming to an end. Why should the holidays ever have to end? This sucks. I hate capitalism, the whole thing. And one moment. Bubbly. And so I says, I was sad about it a little bit. But then New Year's Eve rolls around. And I was done. I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. I'm ready to get back to normal. So, but I hope you had a great holiday. I hope it was fun. Tech Protect, says Salvador, is a Depo baby. He's Jaffe's lost son from what's a Depo? I know what a Nepo baby is, but I don't know what a Depo baby is. But anyway, yeah. Mutimo had a great holiday. That's excellent. Wonderful. Everybody repeat Sal for mod. Why? Salvador wants to be a mod. I don't know why you would want to be a fucking mod, but you know, whatever. But here's the point. I'm glad that the mods are here. I'm glad you're all here. Welcome to the show. We're going to talk on this particular show coming up in about an hour, a little less than an hour. We're going to get to how we would revive PlayStation 1 or just PlayStation in general IPs. Herman Hull said something the other day in an interview that we're going to talk about briefly, and we're going to look at some of the IPs and what we might do to revive those and make them relevant again today. We're going to talk about some of the 2024 gems that are kind of not talked about much, and sort of how it relates to if you have a game that you love. I have one in mind specifically that I love this year that gets so much hate. We're going to talk a little bit about those kind of games. We're going to talk at the top of the show about open worlds and game length, and I have a theory, and I want to propose something for you. See what you think about this. We'll look at the news of the day real quick to see if anything's breaking. Obviously, I mean, don't do news of everything, just video games. Obviously, what's happened last night in New Orleans or early this morning is tragic, and okay. What are you going to say? I will say this briefly. New Year's resolutions as it relates to video games. I have three. One is to finish Elden Ring in January. I'm playing a lot of Dragon Age right now, but I but I booted it up last night for the first time in a long time. And I was like, oh, it feels so good to be back. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. In the next 30 days, I will finish Elden Ring. I'll probably need your help and I'll stream it, but I will finish Elden Ring. That's one New Year's resolution. Let me know if you have any gamer resolutions. I care about those. I don't give a shit about your other ones. I'm going to try my best. I will fail, and I want to fail from time to time, but I will try my best to stop engaging with trolls as often as possible, not because I haven't enjoyed the drama. So thank you, trolls, for the drama. But because, you know, the two things that came up to me towards the end of the year, one was that clip that we've already talked about on previous shows from What We Do in the Shadows, where I'm like, oh my God, I never realized how many of these people are serious versus trolls. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time? The other is somebody pointed out to me, they said, Jaffe, every time you engage with a troll, That's time away from you working on your stream, right? So she basically said to me, she said, so what you're basically doing is you're taking money out of your bank account to pay these little son of a bitches to engage with them. Unless you're making content out of it, why are you arguing with some dork on Twitter? And I'm like, you know what? So resolution number 1, Elden Ring. 2, stop engaging as much with the trolls except when I can make content out of it. Hey, there's the truth, bitch. Number 3, finally, I'm going to try to get comfortable doing not silent gameplay streams, but streams where I'm streaming narrative games and I'm not as obsessed talking to the chat. I love talking to the chat when I game, but there's a lot of games I would like to stream, like Indiana Jones, and I love that. That's my game of the year. But I was like, I can't stream the meat of this game because I need to get lost in it, and I'm going to be worried about the chat. So I'm going to try to figure that out. Okay, what do you got? You got any fucking New Year's resolutions that are game centric? I would love to know what they are. Let me see. How am I going to finish? Morgan says Elden Ring when there's DLC. Well, I'm going to finish the core game. I don't plan on jumping into the DLC right away. I'll save that. In fact, you know what I was thinking? I'd like to go back now. Now I'm really starting to feel like I want to go back to Bloodborne. So I barely scratched the surface on the old Hunters. So I will probably do that before I get to Erdtree. Morgan says her New Year's resolution is to pay off her PC in whole. That's pretty good. Mercury says my New Year's resolution is 1080p. Jesus Christ. I mean, hell, I'm at 1080p, Mercury. And people make fun of me because I don't have a 4K television or a 4K monitor. Lauren says, Jaffe, good luck going back to Elden Ring. I beat the base game, but the thought of going back after a time away fills me with dread. It takes me a few minutes to remember, like, the combat is on the shoulders, but after that I slide, right back in. Plazookas is releasing a video game in 2025. Oh, excellent. Well, we'll have to have you on the show to talk about it. I would love to see what you're making. Okay. Thank you, K-Nubs. The other thing I'll tell you real quick before we get started is you know what? 2 things real quick have nothing to do with anything. I was going to watch Wicked. Wicked is now out. Controller Sports is releasing their first game on Steam this year as well. Look at that. 2 members of the show or 2 viewers of the show are watching the goddamn stream and they're saying, hey, I'm putting games out. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fucking cool. Hello, Merc, sorry. Eric wants to watch Nosferatu. Yeah, I want to see that too, but I'm going to watch Wicked now that that's coming out. I'm excited. I'll probably watch it tonight or tomorrow or this weekend for sure. And then, what I've been doing a lot this year, it wasn't a resolution, but I'm glad I did it, is I read a lot more. And I got to tell you something. I mean, I'm reading right now. I'm reading this. It's the prequel, but it's kind of the second book. Bone Shops and Bone Dust. This is not an ad. I'm just telling you. And then this is the first one, Legends and Lattes. They are super cozy fantasy novels, real fun to read. But, I'm reading these books this morning, or I'm reading this one this morning. And I'm just kind of like, as much as I love video games, as much as I love movies, books are probably the most immersive medium. I understand that you can't interact with it, but you really can, because every now and then when you catch your fucking brain reading and you're like, oh my God, I was in that world with these people, it's so great. It's so fucking great. So I recommend reading, but these books, if you're looking for something, it's not She-Hulk, but she is a giant orc and she opens up a bookstore and she opens up a coffee shop. And I know it sounds like a Hallmark movie and it kind of is, but they're excellent. They're excellent. Morgan says books are absolutely extremely immersive. 100%. Okay. Cantankerous says, Jaffe, our dating card game will get released as well. There's some, not that I made you into game developers at all, but I love the fact that we got 3 indie game developers all putting out games this year and they are watching the show. That means a lot. I love that. 2 more things I love. Jezebelly, thank you so much. Diet Soda Soldier, she's been a member on and off for a long time. Good to have you back. Always great to see you, buddy. I hope you are well. Happy New Year, my friend, and thank you for the support of the goddamn show. Oh, Lucas says he's reading Neuromancer from Gibson for the first time. Really? I've heard so many great things about it, and I've never fucking read it. I need to read it. Connor says, Happy New Year, Jaffe, just joining, but would love to see Sly Cooper make a comeback. We will get to that a little bit later in the show. Right before we get to that, though, stick around, because there's a chance on this very episode to win a $20 PlayStation gift card. If you don't want a PlayStation, we can switch it to Steam, or we can switch it over to Xbox, Nintendo, whatever. But that's coming up a little later. $20 video game gift card for the new year. But it's going to be a test. You're going to have to use your noggin, so prep for that shit. Happy New Year, geeks. Good to see you at the round table. Mutant Mo has been a member for 42 months. He says, are you still reading comics? I am, and I almost made a resolution last night. I was playing some Marvel Snap, and I was like, man, I really want to get back to reading physical video games. I can't read. Physical comic books. We're reading the chat, sorry. And so I might actually start picking up some every couple of weeks. They're so expensive, though, and Marvel Ultimate kind of has me taken care of, but Marvel Ultimate's kind of hard to read because my iPad broke and I haven't really needed to fix it except for Marvel Ultimate, and so I'm just like kind of being lazy. But yeah, I still read comics, but I'd like to read more of them. I adore fucking comic books, man. Absolutely. And I also saw Wolverine Deadpool finally over the break, and I was like, God, I like Marvel. I love Marvel, but it was so nice to see a Marvel movie that was, again, like, okay, this was really cool. This was really fucking cool. Big fucking fan. Okay. Okay, let's get to... oh, by the way, as you see our little ads running there, we got Swap Fire. All that's down below in the About. It's a game. It's pretty cool. One of our members, our key members on God of War, is like, hey, I made this game where when you shoot people, you swap places with them. It's really interesting. It's really cool, and you can play it multiplayer online with remote play over on Steam. And then check out, we're doing... I want to do a little experiment here where I'm talking with, they're not officially a sponsor yet, but I'm putting together a video kind of showing them how they could be. And it's this game that is really, really neat. And I will be playing it live online, called Into Death Our Darkest Days. And it's got this really neat layering 2.5D thing going on. It's a survival. It's an action game. It's really cool. You'll see the ad running from time to time on the show. Click on this link if you want to wish list it or play the demo. It's over on Steam right now. It's pretty cool. Okay, look. First topic. Are open world games too long? Here's what happened. So I'm playing Indiana Jones in the Great Circle, which is absolutely 100% my, without question, is my game of the year. It is a delightful, just joy, this thing. And I loved it. I finished it. I actually want to go back and play more of it, even though I've completed the main quest. There's lots of 100%ing, or not lots, there's 100%, but there's lots of things that you can do that I've kind of pushed off to the side. But as much as I loved it, and just think it's great, man. I mean, I love to hear that Lucas Games is suggesting that, hey, this is done well enough, we want more of these, or at least that's kind of the rumor that we're getting from one of the Lucas people. It's so good. It is so, so good. And I hope it really does well coming to PS5 and being on Game Pass. I hope a lot of people get to experience it. It is not Uncharted. It is not Tomb Raider. It is not balls to the wall action. And so I think that's going to throw some people that are expecting like a machine games gun shoot 'em up. But it's so good. And anyway, though, I'm playing it and I feel like it's a little long. I feel like I get about 80% in and I'm like, oh my God, there's this whole other section. And I'm like, come on, man, how long is this thing going to go on? I loved it. I had no issues with it other than it was just too long. So I tweeted out and people were just like, you're a fucking idiot, man. It's only 14 hours long. And, you know, what's the matter with you? And blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, you know what? It's too fucking long. It's bloated. But then I got to thinking, right? Here's what I got to thinking. I have this problem, and I don't think it's a me problem. I think it's a game design problem. And I think it needs to be solved. But I want to bring that up as our first topic because I'm curious about, if you agree. Not so much as Indiana Jones too long or not. You got to play it and your mileage will vary. But the problem is your mileage will vary depending on how you play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle or any of these open world games. Not Concord, Starfield is another great example. Starfield is one of my favorite games of all time and my favorite narrative video game ever, probably. I gotta think I have to reorder, but it's delightful. But I played it in a specific way. I spent about 90% of my playtime, first playthrough, was following the core mission. And yeah, I deviated here and there, but the core mission was excellent. And I loved it. But a lot of people said, oh my God, I was so bored I quit after an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours. What do you like about this game, Jaffe, right? Well, that's a game where right from the get-go they say, hey, the world is your fucking oyster. Go out, have a great time, do whatever the fuck you want. And hey, there's this mission, there's this main path if you're interested, but we don't really care what you do, right? And it becomes overwhelming, especially if you fly to a planet that happens to have nothing interesting on it, which is most of the planets, unless you're choring for, environmental aspects that you can use to build a base or mining or crafting or whatever. And you're not going to be doing that right away. You're not going to care about that right away. But that game got really hurt by the fact that it was so much freedom right at the beginning. Another game, and this is how I deal with most open world games, right? And Indie is not full open world, but it's little open worlds linearly linked together. But this, I'm going to bring this up. This is a map of Marvel's, I think this is Spider-Man 2 is what this is. So right here is the map from Spider-Man 2, the whole map. Once you open everything up, the boroughs and whatnot. So I never finished Spider-Man 1 and I never finished Spider-Man 2, but I loved them both. And I loved Miles Morales, but I don't think I've ever finished that one either. I may have finished that one. But the problem for me in these games is whether they Ubisoft it or not, where they put these little points and little dots and shit where it's like, hey, collect these, collect all the Spider-Man history icons, collect all of the scientific experiments, whatever, you know what I'm saying? All these games do this. I will get kind of caught up in doing that, right? And by the time I've completed enough of that to feel like I've either done it all or I have done it all, I get the gist of the game. I'm ready to move on to something else. And people say, well, that's a you problem, Jaffe. That's your fault. You don't have to play the game that way. And this is where I take issue with a lot of gamers, and I suggest it is a game design issue, is that if your job is to entertain, I think you are abdicating responsibility when you basically say, it's kind of the equivalent of giving somebody a DVD with all the chapters and going, hey, watch it in any order you want. You can do that. I mean, nobody does that, but in games, because it's so, it makes sense to just do what you want when you want to do it, you end up having an experience that isn't optimal, at least first time through. And I'm sorry, I don't think that needs to go on the user. I don't think that's my job to find the fun. I think that's the developer's job to go, we know what's best. That's our job. That's why we get paid a lot of money. We're going to take you on a great journey. Okay. And the other thing that's problematic about it is when you say, a lot of people say, well, Jaffe, just stick to the core path. Stick to the golden path. They make it clear what that is. Just follow the story missions. Forget my desire to go here, there, and the other. A lot of these games, like take, what's one that comes up a lot? Even just take Dragon Age if you haven't played Dragon Age, right? I was online talking about Dragon Age yesterday, and people were saying, oh, it's really fucking hard. And then somebody said, it wasn't hard to me. And they said, but I did a lot of the side quests in Dragon Age. And so in doing that, I level up my characters a lot and get a lot of good gear. And so the ending boss or the Hydra boss and stuff was not that big of a deal, but it's a big deal for a lot of people that pretty much follow the main path. Well, now the developer's not only saying to the player, find the fun yourself. Hopefully the path you randomly pick through this massive environment is going to be good enough for you. But On top of that, if you don't go the proper path, you could find yourself towards the end of the game or in a situation that you're not equipped for because you haven't chosen to go out and build up your character, even though you had no idea what was coming down the line in 20 minutes or 20 hours or whatever it is. And that's another problem with it. So here's my proposal, and then I'm going to go to the chat, and I want to see what you guys think about this. This is my proposal. I'm not saying it should be a design law. Everybody has to do this. But if I was going to make an open world game, or if you were going to play an open world game, what do you think about this proposal? Okay, so if we go back to this map here, this is the Spider-Man map, okay? When you first come into Spider-Man 2, there is a golden path, and the golden path is this. Now, it's kind of hard to see what it is, but it basically starts here, and the developers give you, depending on the section, they'll give you some branching. You got to do both. So you start here, you've got semi-open world. You're not just following like a trough. You still have some open spaces to swing around and explore, but it's moving you, and then it gets really open here, and then there's a dead end here, but you can go explore if you want and get some goodies and blah, 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 and then it backtracks here. But fundamentally, it's moving you through the map to get you to the end. And then when you get to the end, it doesn't present as New Game Plus. There is something in the narrative that then says, okay, there's this other, it's not going to be as advanced, but in terms of cutscenes and all that, but there's this other story that now opens up. And as it opens up, you now have the full map and you can do all your collecting and all that stuff. But you've gone through the golden path to begin with, and that has basically driven most people to the optimal experience that designers want. That is my proposal, and I want to know what you guys think. Let me go to the chat. Nathan says, I totally agree. The game mechanics ruin games. I felt this in Gears of War years ago. It's collectibles. They're outdated and don't make any sense. The devs make this great story, and then you stray away from it. Brett Moore has been a member. Thank you, buddy, for 34 months. He says, it's rare for a game to keep my attention from start to finish. Either my mood changes day to day, or I tend to always have my backlog in the back of my mind, pushing me to want to vary what I play. Yeah, and this is the thing. It's almost like we admit that it's a problem. We admit that it's frustrating, but we defend it. I'm not saying we all do. I certainly don't. I push back on it. But a lot of people seem to want to defend this idea where it's like, no, man, just you figure it out. Somebody said, where did it go? It says, I think most gamers, Eric says, understand the message. The side quest is not something supposed to be as good as the main. I think Witcher 3 is probably only one of the games where that is not true. It's not that the side quests aren't good, though. I enjoy it. I'm not doing it because I don't like it. I played the side quest in Spider-Man because I was having fun trying to find all the old Spider-Man lore. That engaged me for about 3 days. And then after 3 days, when I was completed that at 100%, I'm ready to go, okay, let me go back to the story. And I'm like, oh, I've already done a lot of this shit in terms of like, I've fought already a lot. I've web swinged a lot. I've done science experiments a lot, puzzle solutions a lot. I've used the gadgets a lot. And so it's worn out its welcome when the game, from a story standpoint and from a momentum standpoint, needs me to be engaging with it. Johnny Graphic says, I think if the game has side quests, it's reasonable to assume that the player does a few of them. I think the problem is everybody's different, right? Why did I choose to follow the golden path in Starfield and have a great time? Well, because I read some reviews that said you should probably do this. But other people didn't read those reviews, and they got in the ship right at the beginning, just flew to a random planet and said, okay, this is boring. Let me fly to another random planet. Hey, this is boring. All right, let me go to another planet. This is fuck it, uninstall. Because they didn't happen to get lucky and follow to a planet that was engaging. Let's see. Those are game design issues, says Mercury. They can be fixed by dynamic difficulty and level scaling and by things like gradually unlocking side content as you go through the main game. Yeah, but it's got to be a conscious choice. I mean, it really has to come down to the developer saying, this is a problem, right? Giving the player this much freedom is a real problem for pacing. And I don't know if that's a conversation. If I were to be making an open world game, I would certainly bring that and go, guys, we have to solve this because this is kind of shitty. But I don't know if this is something that the average open world developer talks about. It's not about which X says there are a lot more games in The Witcher 3 now that have good side quests. It's not that the side quests are bad. The side quests in Indiana Jones are fucking great. I don't even know, by the way, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a thing that presents as a side quest, I think, towards the end of Indiana Jones that I did because I was curious. Let's just say that if you've played it, the hint is blonde lady, okay? And I think that sets up a bunch of stuff, by the way. But anyway, I don't think you have to play that mission, right? But it was awesome. It's not that the side quests aren't good. It's just that fundamentally, when you're done with whatever they are, you've burned through your interest in the game. Okay. Do you ever find yourself replaying games? I do select a few, but no idea what makes them different, says Brett. Brett Moore this year with 2 games, maybe 3, but certainly Indiana Jones, I think I might replay. I'm going to tell you something that it's going to make me horrible. You're going to think I'm a total fucking con man, but I'm going to tell you something. And then we'll get back to the open world discussion. But Indiana Jones, I was thinking of replaying, and I know a lot of people shit on it, but I'm loving Dragon Age. I'm like, I saw Jojo D, who loves it too, saying he's playing it a second time. I might replay Dragon Age. And then I started thinking, you know what? Maybe I should buy these games, like physical, because it was the first time that I said, I would like to own these and have copies of these. And then I was like, you know what? I've been pushing against that for so long. Not against it, but it just didn't matter to me. And now finally, when I guess the world is moving away from physical, what's the point? Like if I was like, oh, I'll go buy a PS5 disc of Dragon Age today and Indiana Jones today for Xbox. And then I'm like, but A, what's the point? Because I'm not going to be able to play them forever unless I have them on digital. And B, I played both of those games, and one of the reasons I enjoyed them so much was I played them streaming on GeForce Now because I could have the best graphics without having to have a rig that gives me the best graphics. So I guess I'm a little too late to the party, but I might replay those. Absolutely, though. So no, I'm not going physical, no. So Fuzzy says you need to design the game and the story around being open world so the pacing makes sense. Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what that means. I understand it as a statement, but fundamentally speaking, if you're trying to design Spider-Man 3 around being an open world so the narrative makes sense in the open world, you're still going to be giving the player a metric shit ton of choice. I mean, you could have the only thing you can do in this massive map might be go to here. And then you're basically saying, yeah, it's an open world, but there's nothing really to do unless you just follow the path. But I think that would feel really empty and strange. It's like, you're going to give me all of this to play around in, but the only thing I can do is I have to go to this one bank robbery that's happening because that's where Uncle Ben, the clone of Uncle Ben, gets killed. I don't know. I don't know about that. Frank has been a member for 48 months. Thank you, sir. He says, so you're telling me Jack Nicholson. Oh, I'm not reading that. I'm not reading that, Frank. I appreciate the super chat or the Diet Soda Soldier membership. Thank you, buddy. But I don't recommend anybody reading that. In fact, I'm going to remove it. Can you believe it? I'm removing your thing because you just spoiled the movie, man. You can't do that. But thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. Yeah, Tristan says the funny thing with these open world games is when the main quest is hurry Spider-Man or this thing will blow up, but then you can do side quests for the next 5 hours. Yep, absolutely, 100%. Morgan says if there's a Spider-Man 3, it better not be in New York. The map is boring. It is starting to get, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. Jaffe, have you played Mafia 2? It's an open world game, says Eric, that really funnels you the story. The new one will be similar. Mafia, the old country. I have not played any Mafia game. I'm waiting for the new one. So that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, Lawrence says my OCD kicks in when playing open world games and I feel compelled to tick off each icon. Currently playing Hogwarts Legacy at the moment and I just love being in the world so it's not an issue. Right. But I mean, don't you think that is, I'm going to put a poll up and then we'll move on, but it really comes down to, don't you think it is a design issue? Whether there's two arguments I hear. One is my OCD kicks in. It's frustrating because the game wears out its welcome. Or, hey, fucking figure it out. They're giving you the freedom. You know where you can go to make your game better. That's a you problem, right? It really kind of comes down to, it's either a design issue that needs to be solved or there is not a problem. It's already been solved. Just don't be a little fucking baby. I would like it to be solved because I think it's kind of bullshit that the player is being asked to find the fun. But we'll see. Let's put up a poll, then we'll move on to the next topic. But here we go. Start a poll. Should open world games have the core path forced until it's solved? All right, there's the poll. Yes or no? And again, every game, before you vote, I'm not saying it's got to be a rule in every game and no game can have an exception. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, should there basically be a general sense that most open world games go out of their way to say, we are going to force you into a great time and then you can find your fun later? And certainly games don't have to do that, but do you wish more games would do that is what I would say. Arathizzle says that's not an open world game then. Yeah, it is. It's just that the full freedom of the open world doesn't unlock until you've completed the 12-hour journey, basically. So that's what I would say. Stellar Blade does it perfectly, says Johnny. It's so good you want to complete all the side content. Okay. Good, Jezebel. Good to hear. Okay. The downside is you can't have games like Red Dead 2 where the side missions are sometimes seamlessly integrated. Yeah, but if it's seamlessly integrated, then wouldn't that fundamentally be part of the main path? You can still have missions that branch. You can still have, it doesn't mean you're following a straight line, right? So if you look at your screen here, again, I made this too complicated, but if this is where you start, there might be in this little chunk before you open. So here's the beginning. You go here, here, here. You can go there, there, and here. Until you open this door, until it's not a door, but until you do what you need to do in this section, you may have to go back and play a couple of side quests. There's still freedom within this, but it's ushering you through to this section, basically. I guess you could call it semi-open world like God of War or Indiana Jones, but I guess the difference would be that it is Indiana Jones, though, says Indiana Jones gives you a much bigger section and you can still get distracted. That's why I think the game is too long, at least on first playthrough. So it would be more linear than that. I think the problem is that they used to teach you how to play the game during loading screens, and now we don't have those. Games need better onboarding, Fuzzy Tomato. I agree, but I don't think that relates to this. The open world meta needs to go away. It's so played out, says Jezebeli. Open level games are better than open world like old Resident Evil or Metal Gear. I would agree with that. I agree. Let's go open level games, at least that are meant to be single player. Like if you could open it up at the end, but it sounds like the majority of the chat doesn't agree. So you won't be playing my new game. That's fine. That's fine. As Rathizzle says, the absolute best parts of open world games is the freedom. Yeah, but the problem is after a while that wears off and you just get bored. At least I do. That's, again, Indiana Jones, too long. It's too long. But anyway, I've not played Mafia 2. Looking forward to the new one. Glad to hear. I don't want to just play a linear game. JB says just play a linear game. No, because A, they don't make a lot of them anymore, and B, as a designer or a one-time designer, what I'm asking is it's not that I'm fascinated how this is acceptable to you guys, right? I'm fascinated, like somebody earlier said, that this particular scenario where I rarely finish open world games or they're too long because I get distracted, blah, blah, blah. I don't think I'm in the minority. I don't think that person was in the minority that said that. I think I don't have the stats for this, but I would imagine that most open world games have a lower completion rate than non-open world games. Godslayer says open world just feels like content watered down by spreading over a massive environment. Yeah, I think that can happen a lot of times too. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic, shall we? But my argument is lost. Only 33% of you are geniuses like me. 67% just can't see our vision. I feel bad for them, fellas. I feel bad for them. Okay. Why is finishing a game so important, says Mladen. I can finish at a later time. Well, why? Because you're on a journey, right? I want to know how it ends. I want to have a sense of closure, a sense of climax, a sense of completion. You know, and sometimes that's the only thing that keeps people playing, which really speaks horribly about the medium. The fact that, you know, Layden was talking about this recently. The fact that most games are never completed, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Steven Johnson, I would argue, he says, I like the choices open world games give. I would argue that somebody mentioned Metal Gear. Like, I think back to Metal Gear 4, Guns of the Patriots. And even when you had contained areas, like I think there was a hospital scene, or there was the scene where you were going up the tower to fight the boss. It's been a while since I played it. Even in those self-contained areas, the sense of, and the literal existence of freedom in those contained spaces was so great that I didn't feel like, you know what I need to do? I want to have more freedom. Let me leave the tower and fly halfway across the map. It was like I could do so many things in that space, but it still kept the momentum of the plot going, which I thought was amazing. The market has not spoken, Fuzzy. He says, I think the market has spoken, and that's why games are the length they are. People don't actually want short games. The market has not spoken. The market has spoken in the sense that they want to have a sense of value about what they pay for. And if you give them an 8-hour game and charge $70 for it, then yes, the market has absolutely spoken. But if you say we're going to give you that same value, or we're going to give you value for $20, or we're going to basically take an open world game and we're going to make it more compelling and people are going to finish it, then more people will buy that game. So I think the market has responded to the very limited choices in this conversation that they've been given. Games are not movies, says Mladen. I play for systems and the fun. The story to me is important, but secondary. To me, I think it depends on the game. I think story is the wrong word. Maybe experience is the better word. If I'm playing Marvel Snap, I'm playing for the systems. If I'm playing Call of Duty Online multiplayer, I'm playing for the systems and in the competition. It's evergreen. If I'm playing Dragon Age, yes, I am enjoying the systems, or Indiana Jones, I'm enjoying the systems, but part of it is how those systems are presented and marbled into this kind of adventure narrative that you're on. And that's part of it. And, you know, when the systems tend to dry up, which they do in most games before the ending, you need something to carry you along. I would argue that the systems shouldn't dry up. And when they do dry up, it's time to end the game and make your game shorter. That's what happened with Indy. Eddie T says, I'd rather have a short game with a high replay value like Devil May Cry than a 50-hour plus game. Yeah, because ultimately it's for most people that aren't kids that have to make a game last for 3 months before they get a new one. You know, fundamentally a long game is still a short game if it's padded because you just stop playing it. Brett Moore says, yeah, damn Steam sale. I just bought 6 games for $80. That's why I can't finish games. That's another problem too. I mean, come on. There's so many games, so many backlogs that I know it's a nice problem to have, but it's kind of a bad problem for the art form. But, okay, let's move on though. Let's move on. let me get to this answer first, though. Mladen says, that's fair, but how do you explain replaying a game or continuing games like Skyrim for hundreds of hours? So I can't speak to Skyrim because I know it's a single-player game and people do that. I don't play the mods. I've never come close to finishing Skyrim, so I don't have the experience to answer that. But replaying a game is probably like rewatching a movie, right? You love the way it feels. You love the combat. You love the systems. You know what's already going to happen, but you enjoy just going through the motions. That's probably the same thing. But I can't really speak to. The Skyrim. Little carrot. Come on, man. Says open world is not a genre. It's a mechanical genre. It may not be a thematic genre like action. I don't know. Let's keep going with your comment, but I need to spend some time on that statement to see if I agree. But anyway, when an open world RPG goes mainstream, you're going to get players jumping in that don't know how to level up, which is a problem. The very first time I played Chrono Trigger was the first RPG I had ever finished. And I got to the boss and I'm like, what in the fuck is this? Because I wasn't leveled up enough. And you're exactly right. I had no idea that Mike Yam at Sony, who's a hardcore gamer, still designing great games and stuff, but he and I were testers at the time, and he's like, oh, well, yeah, it's an RPG. You're supposed to level up your characters. And I'm like, why would I know that? And so I got to the final boss, and I had to go back and restart the game. Or not restart the game, but I go back to a save. I forget how I solved it, but I may have restarted it. I don't remember what I did. It's been a long, long time. But I was like, yeah, I didn't have that data in my head. I had no idea. And that's kind of the problem here too. If you just follow the golden path all the way to the end of an open world game, are you under-leveled? Does the designer say we're going to put the design at medium difficulty for people who follow the golden path? Or do they say, we assume you're not going to follow the golden path 100%, which means we're going to tune the enemies progressively harder and harder, assuming that you've gone out of your way to level up aspects that you wouldn't have leveled up if you had just stayed on the path. That's why this is such a problem, is it really is, it's a big, messy, hey, we put all this cool shit in our game, we hope you like it. We hope you like it. That's not good. That's not good game design, in my opinion. That needs to be solved. Let us move on. Yeah, Cameron says I switch to easy mode if I'm under-leveled. Well, these days I do that too. I'm doing that on Dragon Age. Whenever I get to the dragons, I can't kill them on normal. So I just drop it down, then I go right back up. All right. Nathan, member for 19 months. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that and appreciate being part of our community and that sport. He says, Happy New Year, mate. You as well. I don't like Balatro. There, I said it. What is your most unpopular gaming opinion? I mean, pick a day, right? Today, my most unpopular gaming opinion is probably that Dragon Age, the Veilguard, is in my top 3 games of the year. And people are not really all that happy about that, truth be told. I absolutely love this game. And you know, here's how I can show you, Nathan, that this is absolutely true. So this is what this was a tweet I did last night. I said, say what you will about Dragon Age the Veilguard, and I, for what it's worth, say it's one of the top 5 games of the year. 5-3. I haven't put my list together. But what other game lets you hug a griffin and play rock, paper, scissors with possessed skeleton? That's not why it's in my top 5. I was making a joke. But I love this game. I think it's excellent, right? And I absolutely 100% get, and most of the comments are like, you're a fucking idiot, right? And I'll show you some in a minute. But here's what I'll tell you. Veilguard, I absolutely understand. I totally get that if you are old school Dragon Age guy, I can't speak to that. But those people seem to be rightly upset because it wasn't what the brand promised. And I'm taking them at their word. And for me, it would be like loving Indiana Jones and then playing the new Indiana Jones game. And suddenly Indiana Jones is the most brutal, violent, he becomes Art the Clown from the Terrifier movies, but he's still Indiana Jones. And it's like, okay, this is cool, but what the fuck is this? This is not Indiana Jones. So I can respect that complaint about this, but because of that, because of my lack of experience with it, that complaint's never going to land with me. So I can't speak to that. So I'm experiencing it mostly as just a kind of a random new RPG. I played a little bit of Inquisition, but not enough to really care about the characters and go, oh, that's the Inquisitor. Or I don't think about it. So the other part where they're complaining about the woke stuff, I get that as well. So I've gotten deeper into the game. I somehow managed to avoid the part of the game where you pull a barf, right, which is the push-up scene. That was not in my path, but there are a number of times where Tosh, I think that's her name, people are also like, how can you like the game? You don't even know who the main character bad guy is. And I'm like, dude, shut up. Because I'm not a fucking nerd. I play a million games. Sometimes I'll watch a TV series and I'm watching the show Shrinking right now on Apple. And we're in season 2. We watched the whole first season, loved it. Season 2 is really good. I know Harrison Ford's character's name is Jimmy is the main character, the Sarah Marshall guy. And then Harrison Ford, I think, is Paul. And then I'm like, I don't know who the other characters are. Like, I know I can describe them, but I'm like, what's the black therapist lady's name? What's the name of his daughter? I don't fucking know. Fuck you. So that's not a criteria for liking something. But anyway, the point is, though, the woke stuff in this game, when Tosh is saying things, I appreciate those scenes, right? I agree that, if you're one of these people that genuinely think that the trans community is trying to harm your children, even though that's ridiculous, then I can understand that you might think, why is this in my game? It would be like, if you really believe that, it would be like, Nazi rhetoric in your game. You're like, what the fuck is this? But, that's its own thing. But as a standalone game, though, I think it's really fucking fun. I love, is it written in parts childishly? Sure. But it's fun. It's the missions are fun. I really find myself caring about and liking the characters. I'm a big fan. I really, really like it. So that is an answer to your question, though. That's an unpopular opinion right now, because people came after me and they were just like, this game was fucking review rigged. This one guy, Bander Hub, sent me a thing saying they only sent out the game to be reviewed by a certain number of people. And I said, cool, great game. Like, I don't care. And he wrote back and he said, so you're not going to comment on how they rigged their reviews? And I'm like, dude, he's like, they sent this to one guy who clearly, if you look at his bio, is pro LGBT or whatever. And I'm like, what do you think this is? A Supreme Court argument? Of course they're going to send this to the people that they're going to get the best reviews. This isn't the law. This is a business. If I made a game and I would send it anywhere I could to get the most favorable responses. It's just marketing. You think the other games that you listed as a comparison didn't do the same thing? It's a little bit ridiculous, what I would say. Eddie T says this, kind of related, because I also like Suicide Squad this year. He says, do you think Sony giving away Suicide Squad a part of PS Plus because Todd and Aaron named it Game of the Year? Oh, Todd and Aaron from Mega 64? Is that what you mean? Look, do I think thank you, Eddie. Thank you for being a member for 50 months at the highest tier God of War. Thank you, good sir. Do I think that Suicide Squad is the Game of the Year? Fuck no. Fuck no. But do I think it was fucking fun? Yeah. It's a fun game. I think there is absolutely something happening where I'll take Suicide Squad, Dragon Age, Star Wars Outlaws, and to an extent Indiana Jones, but let's kind of move that over. Wukong did not tell reviewers what they could not say. No, they didn't. They may have told people that we're going to get early review copies. JB says Wukong told reviewers what they could not say. Meh. They may have said, hey, if you want an early review copy, these are the rules. Okay, then if you don't like the rules, then don't take an early review copy. If that in fact happened. And if that happened, and you're like, but that's the business. They got to have the day one because that's the clicks. It's like, well, then sucks to be you. If your business model basically makes you fucking beholden like a fucking slave to the people that you are supposed to be honest about, you have a shitty business and you don't deserve the fucking clicks. But don't act like the fact that I guarantee you the Chinese government or Wukong or whatever, if I decided to play Wukong, which I did and I loved it and said this is a piece of shit game and they need to make sure between every level it says Shanghai needs to be free. Is it Shanghai? What's the country? Taiwan needs to be free. I assure you, I could still say it. They just wouldn't send me a review code. What are you talking about? I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of the lack of critical thinking. VA Warrior has gifted a membership. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. And Little Karakarahi is the guy who got it. Thank you so much for that generosity, VA Warrior. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much. I couldn't play Wukong, says Torres. Couldn't identify as a monkey god. Right. That's true. Okay. Johnny Utah says Veilguard is a great after work, turn my brain off game and just have fun. I don't like the characters as much as Jaffe, but it's super fun to play. Yeah. And what I'm telling you is there's a real frustration on my part and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I should do about it. It's not really my problem. But Outlaws, Suicide Squad, Dragon Age are all games this year that got the shit kicked out of them. And if you were those teams, at least in the case of Dragon Age, it ended up at the top of a couple of prominent Game of the Year lists, the number one Game of the Year, and it was in most top 10, top 20 lists. So at the very least, the team knows they made something good, and they may have, I think EA shit the bed and said, this ain't Dragon Age. If you guys want to call it something else, maybe we'll talk about publishing it, but you can't call this Dragon Age. You're going to piss off a lot of people. But it's so shitty to me that there were these three really well games made that no one's playing because of reasons that some are valid, some are not. Brad says you seem to be stuck on pigeonholing those of us who don't like the game as people who want the old Dragon Age. That's a lot of people, Bradley. That's a lot of complaint. I'm not saying everyone has that complaint. There's the woke complaint, but that's not everyone's complaint. Brad says, I think the writing is bad, the combat is bad, the graphics are bad. So on that, though, the writing I don't think all aspects of the writing are bad. I think the plot is good. I think the performances are mostly good. I think the characters are good. I think the way the characters' dialogue is written in some of the scenes are horrifically stupid and crap. The combat, I think, is shallow, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's fun. And the graphics, I'm playing it on PC with all the knobs turned up, so I don't know where you're playing it. But on mine, I cannot fathom anybody saying the graphics are bad. But maybe you're playing it on a different system than I'm playing it on. K-Nubs, thank you, buddy. 12 months, died so soldiers. He says, how many pumps of Jaffe butter do I get in my popcorn bucket for 1 year membership? You're a filthy, filthy man, and I hope you burn in hell after you call me tonight. Wink. Thank you, K-Nubs, for that great, great support. I appreciate it. Great, great. Did you really? It wouldn't surprise me. Blake says, I saw Jaffe in a Chinese news video about Wukong. That video I made about Wukong, which I loved, got like the most I've ever gotten, so it wouldn't surprise me. It's using Fortnite graphics. I don't know what you're talking about, because no, what I'm playing is not that. It's fucking awesome. Does it look as good as Stalker 2 or Black Myth Wukong? No. Yes, I care very much about CES. I'm looking forward to talking about it in tomorrow afternoon's show. Anthony says Dragon Age writing is good, just not great. It has great graphics on a PS5. Yes, I don't know what he's talking about, but you know, he's a good egg. Maybe he's drunk. Brad's always drinking before he comes in here. You can smell it on his fucking letters. As a game designer, says corporate game designer, I always take criticism that writing is bad with a grain of salt, given my experience knowing how much players fucking don't read anything. That may be true too. I think I think if you're judging the writing, now Brad's not, he played it. But if you're judging the writing based on the Barv scene or based on it does feel like a CW show. Everybody's so fucking willing to just pitch in and let's just be good to each other. It's just like, it's a little obnoxious, but I still think the characters are cool. I think, the narrative is really fucking cool. I dig it. It's a really fun game. I'm enjoying it. But that answers your question. And that does go to our second topic about overlooked games of the year. I'm never going to convince people. The only thing I can hope is Suicide Squad being on PS Plus. People will at least give it a try. But, and again, I'm not saying you're going to give it a try and you're going to be like, this is the best fucking game ever. It's not, but it's fun. Especially if you pick Captain Boomerang. His navigation, moving around the space, is better than Spider-Man swinging. Spider-Man swinging's better, but we're tired of it. This was like almost as good, and it was new. It's a fucking fun game. It's free if you got PS Plus. Give it a play. Tyler, this is the point. Tyler says, I think people ragging on Dragon Age Veilguard never played Dragon Age 2. That's Brad's point. He's like, I'm so tired of people saying that that's the reason we don't like it. I'm like, that's a big reason. A lot of fucking people don't like it because of Dragon Age, Origins and comparison and things like that. So, oh yeah, Brett Moore says Pepper Grinder is $9 on Steam. I Will Die on the Hill. Yeah, that's a great fucking game. Okay. Jarvie Rocks, good to see you, buddy. I have a random off topic. Would the hack and slash style gameplay of God of War work in a 2.5D gameplay, and how would you do it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's been done before. I think if you can pull off semi-Souls gameplay, not entirely, in something like Blasphemous 2, you can certainly pull off God of War in 2.5D. I don't think it makes sense unless you can do it for real cheap. I think all you have to do is look at one of the most consistently well-reviewed games this year, which is the Prince Persia game that was 2.5D that people loved. And that team, I think, is shut down, or certainly they're not making any more of it, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, I would listen. Here's the deal. Lawrence, he says, I will probably play Star Wars Outlaws next, but if the game doesn't nail the universe, I will probably welcome the option to have a more linear game. I will say this. Star Wars Outlaws is a better Star Wars game than Jedi Fallen Survival Order or whatever the Stig games are. And those games are great. Those are better games. Stig's games, the Respawn games, are easily better games than Outlaws. But Outlaws is a better Star Wars fantasy simulator, especially if you like the OG 70s, Jedi, Star Wars, New Hope to Jedi. I've never played a game like it. That's why it works. As a standalone moment-to-moment game, Stig's games are way better as games, but as living in the world of Star Wars, you will never have a better experience so far than Outlaws, is what I would say. I didn't say Jedi's not amazing. They are absolutely amazing. They're great games. They're better games than Outlaws. I'm making a distinction though. Yeah, Michael says Outlaws has the best Star Wars world. Nailed the vibe. It's not a crazy take if you listen for the nuance. If you listen for me to say Star Wars Outlaws is a better game than the Jedi games, no, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, your mileage will vary, but that's not what I said. But I think it's a better Star Wars simulator. Absolutely. Darth Nugget says, I prefer Fallen Order and Survivor, but Outlaws was definitely the most realized world in Star Wars we've gotten. Right. Agree. All right, here's what we're going to do. Let me, so I put a tweet out. I wanted to see what games people felt. Here's what I said. I said, putting together a video for later this year. What video game that came out this year do you wish more people knew about, played, and got more attention? Here's let me see if ChatGPT. I don't think it can log. I wish it could, but let's see. I wish I could give it my. Grok can probably do it. Let me see something. Hang on. Can you look at this tweet and list the games in order that appear most frequently? Should have done this before, but let's see. Okay, it did it. That's great. All right. So I put together, I'll get, you guys wait for a minute. Because I want to see your comments. I want to see what you think. But this tweet did, how many people responded to this tweet? Let's see. We got about, I was surprised, like over 110 people responded to a tweet of like, here are the things I felt were not mentioned this year like they should have been. Okay. And here are the top 10 that people said I wish more people would have picked up on. Not the top 10, but whatever. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Top 7. Number 8 is Balatro. I'm assuming that was a troll. People just, so fuck that. Number 7, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Number 6, Mullet Mad Jack. Number 5, Crow Country. Number 4, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, the Capcom tower defense game, which Colin was mentioning this to me the last time I was on the show, and he was like, dude, that game is so fucking great, and I need to go back and play it. It's on Game Pass, by the way. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, that's the 2.5D one. Unicorn Overlord, definitely in my top 10 of the year, loved it. And then this one I was very happy and very surprised to see at the top of the list. I was super fucking happy to see this at the top of the list. I played it. I kind of got bored of it because it just went on and on and on, and people were like, dude, you have to finish it. It is so fucking good. And it just stick with it. And I might go back because I loved it. And that is Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. If you don't know what this game is, it came out earlier this year, and it's about this ghost hunter in like early America, like Puritan times. And it's very ghosty. It's very, what's the Tim Burton movie with Sleepy Hollow? It's very much like that. I thought it was excellent. I just kind of got bored of it. But seeing it at the end of so many lists, oh, that's too small. Seeing it on the list of so many end of the year games, I'm really happy about. And it does make me want to go back and spend some more time with it. So I think I will actually do that. Where can I get this image? Let's see. Open image in a new tab. There it is. I mean, it's very haunted housey. It's very, very cool. Godslayer says it's pretty boring, honestly. Oh, I didn't think so at all. I thought it was great. Kyler says Plucky Squire. Yeah, Plucky Squire I thought was good. I expected more from it because the concept was so strong in the previews, but okay. Arathizel didn't like it. Well, I'm just telling you what the top of the list was. This was the top of the list people mentioned to me and said, this is the game that was most mentioned out of the 100 people that responded, 110 people. This game is the most overlooked gem of 2024. Okay. Prince says Ghost of Eden is a very underrated game. Yeah, I loved it. I'm not going to get into the other part, Prince, other than to say, I mean, my thoughts are it's horrible. It's tragic. It's, I don't know if there's any more news since, a couple hours ago, but it's terrible what happened in New Orleans. All right, let's see. You guys were saying, yeah, College Football 25, great game. That's the best-selling game of the year. I see a number of Unicorn Overlord. It's excellent. Let's see. Yeah, Jezbelly says, I look at the Discord community user statuses all the time, and none of you all ever play any games. I play a lot. Pepper Grinder, I know she's not talking about me. Pepper Grinder says, Brett Moore, it's a great game. It's a great fucking game. Ben says, I'm going to wait for all Ubisoft games to drop to $20. I think they've learned their lesson because I don't think even now, Star Wars Outlaws, everybody, and that's really on them, man. I mean, that's totally on those guys. And I think they've learned their lesson. Everybody was saying the same thing. It's like, I'll wait for Star Wars to drop to $20 because their stuff usually drops very, very, very quickly. like within Black Friday, like November, if it comes out in October. But Star Wars, you know, you can get it for $40 now. So it's dropped a little bit, but it's not like their other stuff that was like, you know, I remember when Assassin's Creed Odyssey was at $20 2 months after it came out, right? So those days, I think, and I think it's smart that they're over because, you know, I think they're realizing that those guys have conditioned people to wait for their games. So Nine Souls says, Jordy, yep, I have that ready to play. Angerfoot, Mutant Mo, Angerfoot got slept on. Fallen Aces got slept on. I mean, the fact that Angerfoot got slept on, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that game is so fun and so crazy and so batshit. And people just did not show up for it. And I don't know if it's on console yet. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe it needs to be a console game. But boy, that fucking game is just exceptional. And it couldn't get any fucking traction. And it's super fucking fun. There we go. Kill Knight I haven't heard of. Mad Mullet Jack was great too, though. I played that and thought it was excellent. Roger says, what are your top 5 games to look forward to this year? That'll be on an upcoming show this week on a Gabbin' and Games. I haven't put my list together. JSD, thank you, buddy. Member for 11 months. He says, my top games that are overlooked would be Nine Souls and Still Wakes the Deep, both on Game Pass. Right. I played a little bit of Still Wakes the Deep, and I need to go back because it is appearing on a lot of top 10 lists this year. And I dug it, but I didn't dig it so much I wanted to keep playing it. So maybe I just didn't play it long enough. But this game right here is Angerfoot, and it's fucking excellent. Mecha says it's only PC waiting for a console port. Okay, I get that. Hopefully it'll do well there. Dan Rath says, Jaffe, would you have time to talk with me? About what? Aren't we talking now, my good sir? Mullet Mac, I should play Mullet Mad Jack again. I will. I remember liking it a great deal when I played the demo. I think I already bought it, right? Let me check and see if I own it. I think I do. Shut up. I think I own it. Anyway, whatever. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. When we come back, we're going to take a very quick break, 5 minutes long, 5 minutes and 40 seconds. When we come back, there's 2 things going on. We are going to first give away a $20 PlayStation gift card. But you got to be smart. In fact, here's what we're going to do. The way to do it is this. I'm going to give you a link, okay? And I recommend staying. Well, you know what? I'm going to give you a link when we come back. I want to make it fair. But there's a new potential sponsor of the show that you haven't seen yet, and I think you are going to be really jazzed by what these people do. And I need you to go to their website, and I'm going to ask you a trivia question about what's on their website when we come back. If the first person who gets it right gets a $20 gift card. Come on now. How can you complain? And then after that, we're going to dive into ways that we could take beloved IP from PlayStation and bring them back to prominence, okay? That is all. It's not BetterHelp. Thank you, Dano Genesis. 50 months, the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you so much for that support, buddy. I appreciate it very, very, very much. Thank you, sir. Very nice of you, and it's wonderful to have you as part of our community. But look, we'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm going to get some more Diet Coke. I'm going to pee, and then we're going to give away the gift card. And then I am going to show you guys some cool shit regarding PlayStation early brand games that could make a comeback or how they could make a comeback, okay? I'll be right back. 5 minutes. Here we go. I need to change that to say not show starts, but you know what I'm saying. All right, I'll be right back.
8 years ago, Swapfire twisted your mind on Wii U. And right now, it's officially back in action on Steam. Beam into the mind-bending world of Swapfire and duke it out in the greatest game show of 2139. Shoot your opponents to swap spots so you can outwit and outmaneuver each other in Swapfire's arenas. Fly solo or with up to 4 players via split screen or Steam remote play together. And keep the contest going with 9 game modes to unlock. Scan the QR code on your screen to secure Swapfire today.
All right. Welcome back to the show. All right. Here we go. Now listen. That's a good idea, golf franchise. I didn't put that on my list. Destruction Derby. We'll get back to that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Our break is over. I got a new Coke. I got some more Coke. Wink. Wink. Here's the point, though. I want to give you an opportunity to win a $20 PlayStation gift card, or it can be Steam or Xbox, wherever you game. But, well, you know, be sure you follow me on Twitter, David Scott Jaffe, or I will put a link to our Discord, because if you are the winner, here's the link right here. You need to DM me, and I will get this to you. Brad, if it's Pornhub, if Pornhub actually has a, it says hidden, use the copy button. What? Here. Copy. Hang on. What do you mean use the copy button? Fuck you, I am. I don't want it to be hidden. Send a link. Hang on. Invite people. I'm using the copy button. It says it's copied. All right. Can you click it? Does it allow you to click this? Is that a clickable thing? All right. Well, if it's clickable, click it. If not, I'll figure it out. Find me. Just hit me up on Twitter. I have more followers there anyway. Unless you happen to be on Discord. Either way, that's how you'll get it. I don't know why that's not working. I'll have to figure that out. Okay. Let us begin, though. So here's what we're doing. Here's how you're going to win the gift card. I'm going to give you a link. This is a link to, they're not a sponsor yet. I've been talking to them because they're doing some really neat stuff as it relates to things I've been involved with, but I can't speak to those yet. But if you go here, it's Dracula Bite, and I just love these guys' stuff. But here's how we're going to do it, okay? I'm going to show you the website, and then I'm going to take it off the screen. These guys do amazing geek-centric T-shirts, okay? They're all custom. They're all original coming from these guys that you can see right here. And they go deep. It's not just, Sonic. They've got Banjo-Kazooie. They've got Silent Hill, Bloodborne, Metal Gear, the whole fucking deal. The whole fucking deal. They're awesome, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Go to the site, first off. They are very cool. They're excellent shirts, excellent designs. And there's some coming, which is the hope that we're gonna be able to work on some stuff, okay? Anyway, here's the point. Go to the site, draculabite.com, all right? And I am going to, and I'm not going to show it to you now, and I'm looking at the same screen, okay? So when you guys are all there, if you look at the main page, underneath newest T-shirts and going all the way down to the end of best selling, which ends with a Darth Vader shirt. You follow me so far? The Darth Vader T-shirt is at the very bottom where we're going to stop, and at the very top we're going to start at newest T-shirts. And if you're listening and not watching, I really feel for you, because peep your screen. Look at this. We're going to start here with Darth Malik and go all the way down to Darth Vader. The answer is somewhere in between those two shirts, okay? And here is your trivia question. Who, and I want you to listen, click carefully. You get a $20 gift card to PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, whatever you want. Just one. Which character, what is the name of the T-shirt? Not the name of the character, but what is the name of the T-shirt, and that's under the shirt, that says that would be a terrible, the name of the shirt, here we go. The name of the shirt that would be a terrible Ghostbuster. They are on a shirt. And what is the name of the shirt? They would be a terrible Ghostbuster. They might actually be a good one, but they would be afraid of ghosts more than they should be. And that way they would be a problematic Ghostbuster, but they'd probably get the job done. How about that? How about that? Yep, there we go. Sweet Screams are made of this. Connor Norton got it. It is the Luigi's Mansion shirt right there. It'll only cost you $20 if you want the shirt, but Connor has won the card. Connor, hit me up on Twitter or on the Discord at David Scott Jaffe, and I will get you, and let me know what card you want. And I will get you the gift card. But there you go. There you go. Luigi's Mansion, Sweet Screams are made of this. Absolutely. Okay. Connor, hit me up, buddy. And in the meantime, let's move on to our third topic about PlayStation IP that could make a comeback. So Herman Hulst was interviewed earlier in the week, and at least it was published earlier in the week. And he said, one of the things we want to do is bring back or do something with these IP that we know a lot of people love. And obviously it got a lot of people speculating, wondering about what is he talking about? What is in development? So I want to talk about this topic more from a standpoint of stuff I think could be cool. I don't necessarily think that everyone that just likes an old title, it's in the commercial best interest to bring that title back. For example, I've talked about SOCOM in the past, and a lot of people say, oh, well, SOCOM, I mean, you know, that's a no-brainer, right? I don't think SOCOM is a really good idea because I think the fan base is so splintered on what they love about it that you may as well just make something new or go buy the guys who make Ready or Not, which is a great SOCOM-esque game, and bring that over or whatever, or maybe buy that developer and make or hire them to make a military version of it because there's SWAT guys in that game. But so I wouldn't agree with that, right? Or in Infamous, people are talking about. Godslayer says Infamous, Uncensored Maverick says Infamous. I don't agree with Infamous because even though I get you might love the character, there are so many games now that are proper superhero games with IP that are way more popular that I think to bring it back, it's just not a strong enough license, right? Is what I would say. So, you know, I'm going to have my opinions, but I definitely want to hear yours as well. But let me pitch you my games. And most of these are Sony-owned IP, but some of these are Sony-based games or PlayStation games that nobody's doing anything with that I think would be awesome that they could fucking do as well. So here we go. That's actually interesting. V8 Warrior says, I never cared about Infamous. I played Prototype instead. I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that Infamous or Prototype will be coming to Game Pass sooner than later because it is an Activision title. And I would fucking love to see that take off again because that is more violent and gory, and it seems like it's got more of a personality than Infamous at a meta elevator pitch level. I don't mean that the character, what is it, Connor or whatever, is not a better character. I just mean in terms of like at a high concept level, it's like that movie, what was it called, Blood Bright or something, about Superman being evil. It kind of has more of that flavor that sells itself, I think. Okay, here we go. Here's Jaffe's games and how he would want to bring them back. Let us begin with Warhawk. Okay, now I do not think Warhawk means nothing from a standpoint of branding. The first Warhawk was great for its time. I'm going to show you a picture in a second. The first Warhawk was great for its time, amazing tech, but you know, it was a cult hit. The second Warhawk on PS3 was a much beloved game, but it was all multiplayer and it never really became, you know, anything. A lot of it had to do with Sony not having a very robust online environment at the time. But yeah, it was generic. But at the time though, because you could get out of cars and get in planes and, you know, you didn't have a lot of that freedom on console. You had a little bit with Battlefield, but most people on PC knew what that was. But on console, it was relatively new. But this is what I would do with Warhawk. Let me give you my pitch, okay? It would be 100 versus 100 people, right? So you'd have a huge battlefield. And this is the idea. Yes, it's AI. It's not going to be perfect. I didn't spend much time. But here's the core idea. Side one has the red robot. Again, this would be branded. I'm not saying it would actually be red and blue, but you'd have a red robot and a blue robot. And these guys are fucking massive. And I couldn't get AI to really do this with me, but the guys are too big in here, the humans. But imagine these humans in the robot, but they're now at like, you know, way tinier. Like, you know, they're only 20% the size you see here. So you are able, Pacific Rim robots, but even bigger. So you're able to fight in the robots, go in the robots, sabotage the enemy robots. You're able to go in and take control of certain systems in the robots, like the head, or you can fire off the fist and fly it around. And then you also can steal elements of the enemy robots and then attach them onto your robot to grow your robot. So it may be that it's like, this robot's trying to defend the city and this one's trying to destroy it. And everybody here at any time can get in planes and cars and dune buggies and the robots and control them, right? I don't think it's too complicated. And I don't think it would take $1 billion to make the game. Godslayer says there's nothing. The only problem with the game like this would be this, in my opinion. It would be that you would have most people just playing team deathmatch, right? And they're just kind of like, dude, get in the robot. Our robot's dying. You've got to steal the energy cell from the red robot and plug it into the blue. And people are kind of like, no, I want to shoot this guy. It's like, oh. So you want to be careful. With multiplayer games like this, they sound really cool, but they only sound cool in a lot of ways if you're playing them right. If you don't play them right, can you still make it really, really fun? But I think this would be cool. Okay, so that's idea number one. Herman, if you're listening. Good night, Rob the Mod. I hope you're well, buddy. So that's idea number one, to bring back the goddamn PS IP. Okay. Okay, moving on. This is a missed opportunity, and this was on PS2. I'm showing you Microsoft Flight Sim, not because I want Sony to make Microsoft Flight Sim, but this game looks so good visually, and it is such a hard fucking game to play. A, because it's buggy as fuck, and B, because it simply it's buggy as fuck, and it's also just intentionally hardcore. I don't want to play this game, and I don't want to tell Sony they need to make their version of this game. But I want to look how good that looks, right? Look how good that looks. But I want to direct your attention to another game called Sky Odyssey, right? Now, Sky Odyssey was a PS2 game, and it was simply about the fun of flying. And it wasn't a simulator, and it doesn't mean that it needs to be as simple as this. But the idea of an easy-to-control plane, yeah, there's some depth, and you can grow and get better, blah, blah, blah. But really cool scenarios for flight, I think would really fucking be awesome. And well, Jaffe, what does that mean? Well, here's an idea. Again, this AI is not perfect, but like you could have your plane and you could have a circus train that is racing towards a damaged bridge and the train is catching fire. And your whole thing is to basically fly your plane and extract cages of animals off the train before it goes off the bridge and all the animals die, right? You could have missions where you are flying through LA skyscrapers or New York skyscrapers after a terrorist attack or an earthquake, like in the Rock movie San Andreas, and you're trying to pick people up from the buildings and drop them off somewhere else, right? You could have just really fun, easy to play, easy to fly scenarios. I would want to bring back Sky Odyssey. I think this would be fucking awesome. Okay, that's my second idea. Now, I want to talk to you about Twisted Metal for a moment. So Twisted Metal, Swapfire, one of our members who has the game Swapfire here, actually made a demo for me when I was talking about making Twisted Metal, but making it omnidirectional. Because I think the biggest problem with Twisted Metal is that the ability to move the vehicles in interesting ways pales so much in comparison to what people are used to in shooters. And so in this case, what we would do is we would take a vehicle, but they would have those wheels that are spheres. So it could go into normal driving mode, but then you could activate the sphere mode and it could strafe, and then you could instantly go between the two. So you'd create really interesting maneuvers by going into a drift and then activating the sphere, and then suddenly you're drifting and sliding, but then you activate it and now you're strafing and you can come out of it back into drive mode, right? He actually did a demo of this, and I need to tweak it a little bit with him because I was flipping over way too much. But I want to work with him, and he said he'd give me some tweaks to it, and then I want to show it to you guys. Yeah, so Brett Moore says it sounds like Arkham Knight Batmobile. A little bit. Not exactly, though, because if I remember in that game, there was a very clear delineation of when the Batmobile was in this mode and that mode. But to me, this would be part of the skill and the tactics and the sort of mastery would be figuring out how to come in and out of each mode and how using each mode together within an instant of each other gives you really interesting abilities to dodge weapons, to line up attacks, and things like that. But I would say, though, that both Twisted Metal and going back to this Sky Odyssey, the real question is, do games like this even have a home at a lower budget, even at a high budget? That's one of the problems with games like this. They're so systems-based, they're so games-based, that if you got to spend a lot of money, you start to wonder if it's worth it. But I'm just doing high-level creative. I'm not worrying about that part of it, because that's got to be a big part of it. When people say, bring back Gravity Rush, it's like, well, Gravity Rush never really sold that well to begin with, and you want to bring it back? Why? Okay, let me give you this one. So people bring up, well, why not make a futuristic hovercraft, says Bad Robo, going back to Twisted. Because the problem is then you only have the hover ability. Like I said, I like the omnidirectional motion because you can strafe, right? Which you need in a shooter. But I also like, to me, the real sex and magic is the instant switching between the two. So if you are top-down view, if you're drifting and your car's going like this, and suddenly the pivot goes from the ability to pivot on the front of the car, which is actually here, and suddenly your wheels go omni and you can go like this and then this, I think that would create a lot of interesting opportunities at Mastery, right? Anyway, though, all right, let's stay focused. Okay, so a lot of people talk about Siphon Filter. Bring back Siphon Filter, they say. Problem with Siphon Filter is, it's been so long, and, to hear Garvin talk about it, like I want to go back and play some of them now, like the later ones, because it sounds like there was a lot of really cool stuff there. But I don't think it's like people are dying to know, oh no, I really must know what happened to Gabe Logan. Although I think he died, right? Or Garvin wanted to kill him. It's not the point. Here's what Sony needs. Sony needs a big budget. I would make it open world, dealing with some of the open world problems in a better way, like we talked earlier in the show. I would make it open world, and I would make it so that so it's like an open world James Bond, which I know they're doing that, or I think they're doing that. But I think the idea of getting on a plane and flying to Milan and then flying to Egypt and then having a car chase up the mountains in the Himalaya, just having a real globe-trotting kind of adventure, but it's open, I think would be awesome. But here's the main thing you got to have. You got to have a little juice to it, right? Super AAA, super expensive. And this is an idea, and I just want to be clear on this, because I would never take someone else's idea. I had a great comic book writer, Paul Jenkins, pitch me something, not that was Siphon Filter based and not that was spy based, but it was something about powers, because he writes superhero comics. And I was like, okay, I will never mention that. That's his idea. It's brilliant. But then I saw a couple of cartoon series that predated it that did this, which is basically not knowing what ability you're going to get. And once I saw that, I'm like, okay, it wasn't just Paul's idea. He may have come up with it on his own, but this is out there in kind of the storytelling zeitgeist. Okay, so I feel okay with this. So here's what the idea would be. Is you are Gabe Logan or his son or whatever, and it's a action open world spy adventure, but you have this Siphon Filter shot. And every time you give yourself the shot, you don't know what's going to happen, right? So his abilities, and you can only give it to yourself like every hour, or every time you do it, it takes like a third of your health off. So if you do 3 in a row, it'll kill you until you wait a certain amount of time. It's not random weapons, it's abilities, right? So for example, if he takes it, and the abilities change and grow, right? So if he takes it one time, and there'd be like 30 of them. I'm not saying it's random every time, or you never, you don't know what you're going to get, but you can start to get used to like 30. And maybe from the 30, you can upgrade your character and say, I want these to be limited to these 8. So at least I can trick out my kit for a mission. But he's got the Dr. Octopus kind of demonic arms that come out, give him the ability to take out enemies that way. Other times he takes it and his skin turns into like concrete, and he's kind of like Power Man. He's invulnerable, but maybe he's really fucking slow or something. Then he takes it and he can split into like 4 or 5 different versions of himself. And there's some kind of weird control thing where you can control them at the same time, but you can also pick between the ones that you want to control at any given time. And maybe there's something like, depending on if any of them die, when you come back together, if you've managed to keep all of them alive, you get like bonuses or more strength or whatever. Then you can take one that turns you into kind of like computer particles and it lets you move through energy and electricity. It's almost irrelevant. I don't know exactly what the individual moves are yet, but I think you absolutely need to do something if you're going to bring Siphon Filter back. It can't just be what it was, right? I think you're getting darkness vibes just because of this image here. This looks very much like the darkness, but these obviously you don't get in the darkness. And again, you would want to have like 30 of these powers, and you would want to kind of, it's almost like Tears of the Kingdom, where all of your abilities need to be solvable, or all of the puzzles or challenges need to be solvable with any of these abilities. So if you take it and it's this, you're like, okay, fuck, I got to figure out a way to use more of a energy transference kind of thing. So you're saying Infamous Second Son. I'm kind of confused about that. I know the game, but Infamous was not about a hero. It wasn't about the electricity guy, but it wasn't like he could take a shot and he never knew what power he was getting. Did he? I don't think that was Infamous, unless I missed something like the DLC with one of their expansions or something. But anyway, Gay Logan, there you go. So I would do this, or make Centipede. Yeah. A human centipede. Yeah. If you do, these guys, those would be the ones. So I would do Twisted Metal. I would do Siphon Filter. I would do a Sky Odyssey. I would do, Warhawk in the way I talked about it. And then finally, like I said, these are not all going to be PlayStation games, but I actually got a few more I got to show you. I don't, we already talked about SOCOM. Jet Moto, right? I don't think Sony needs to make Jet Moto because someone's already making Jet Moto. This is called Airframe Ultra. I'm hoping it comes out this year. It's kind of an open world, Jet Moto, basically. And there hasn't been a demo released yet. And I hope we get one soon. Let me see why this isn't playing. But it's really neat. It looks like a PS1 title. Hang on. All right. I want to go big. The minute I go big, okay, I'm just not going to be able to go big. Sorry. All right, here we go. There we go. Okay. It looks like a PS1 title, but it's supposed to, and it's open world, basically Jet Moto. And I think you also have a little bit of Road Rash in here as well. So maybe what Sony should do is just kind of reach out to these guys and say, can we get this on PS Plus as an exclusive for a couple of months? Because it looks really awesome, man. So that's the only reason I didn't mention Jet Moto. And again, it kind of goes back to the whole issue of, you can't make this for $300 million. You may not even be able to make this for $50 million. The real question is that in Sony's interest, right? I mean, to make something, I understand fans would like it, but they're in such a high cost business now that what do they care if they make a game for $3 million and they make, $25 million in profit? Like, what does it matter? Right? I would love to see them open up more of a boutique publishing label within PlayStation so they have their own agenda and it doesn't have to be tied, because movie studios do that. And I'm not quite sure what their incentive is for a movie studio to have like a boutique label that releases under $10 million movies. But for some reason, it's a business model that has worked for that industry for a very long time. And I would love to see if it could work in video games. But anyway, okay. Here's what I want to show you, though. This other one, though, real quick. I want to show you one that is... Oh, well, I'll show you two more. Sorry, there's so many great ones. I was also going to bring up this game, Tenchu, which it was an Activision game. But there's really... Tenchu was like the first big stealth console game. You played a ninja, blah, blah, blah. But there's no real reason to make Tenchu because basically we've got Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out, which I'm very excited for. I'm very, very excited for. I know some people are bitching about it. Everything they've released from Ubisoft recently has been quite fun. And it looks really good. So I think this is checked off. And obviously they also have Ghost of Yodi or whatever. So, okay, here's my last one though. And this goes way back. It goes way back to one of the first video games on home console, Combat. And if you're not that old, all Combat was basically two tanks in a top-down maze, basically Twisted Metal, right? It's just, kill the other guy first. Two tanks in a top-down maze, and you shot at each other, okay? But here's what's interesting, and I played this. A lot of people are raving about this game. I didn't like my first playthrough, so I deleted it. It's called Striftat, and it's a 1v1 shooter. And there's tons of maps, and it's just you versus one other guy. And I was amazed to see this appear on so many coolest games of the year list. It makes me need to go back and try it again, because all I found myself doing was just looking for the guy, and we both stood in a line and pressed the trigger as fast as we could. Apparently there's more depth there. I just didn't see it. So imagine, here's what I'm proposing. You go to Atari, you say, give us the rights to Combat. It's 1v1 like this, but here's the twist. At any time, it's still you 1v1 with the same opponent. But at any time, you never know when there's going to be like a reality shift, and you're going to go from on foot like this to being in Twisted Metal cars, to being in tanks, to being in giant robots, to being in attack helicopters, to being in F-14 jets fighting each other, or biplanes and like World War I biplanes. And so it's all about you versus the other guy and the same guy, and whittling down their health bar across a variety of maps, but you never know what actual combat scenario you're going to find yourself in, because it can change in an instant. Swapfire says Battle Shift. Is that the name of the game I'm saying, or is that there is a game that already does this? Because if there is, I want to play it. I want to play it badly because I think it sounds really, really, really cool. But this Straftat apparently is good, and I don't think it costs that much. But the demo left me cold. But I would very much like to play this now that people are saying, no, you got to give it another try. It's not Gulag in Call of Duty, though. They're not with the twist, baby. Not with the twist. How do games get a green light at PlayStation? Is there some kind of committee? I haven't been there in a very long time. My understanding is that it is that now. It's like you'll pitch a game. You've obviously got to get your studio behind it. Then it's got to jump through the hoops of, okay, we've budgeted this much for this studio to have a game for this number of years. We don't know what it is yet. Okay, let's go to the committee who sits around and decides, is that checking all the boxes we have to check? But again, like somebody was saying, where's the A24 of publishers? Yeah, I would love to see that. But that's just me. I don't understand why. I'm trying to think what they're calling. A24 is its own thing, but there are a number of movie studios that have these boutique outfits, and I would love to know how they can justify caring about such a small profit compared to a huge profit from a big movie like Wicked. But I'd love to see if games could survive that too. Okay. All right. Well, good luck, Da Vinci's. That's great. I told you. Let me know. It might be nice to give it a read like we've talked about. Okay. All right. Those are my ideas for games that I think Sony should revisit. Most of them Sony own, but not all of them, in order to bring people the joy of Herman's comment that, hey, let's come back and bring back some of these great games. I've seen in the chat, you guys are talking about Resistance. What's really hard about some of those PS3 era games is that you don't know why they didn't do well. Right? You don't know, like Resistance was fine, Killzone was fine, but they never achieved kind of that great sales status. Was that because it was PS3? Was it because the third party like Call of Duty's offered a better and more successful option? You know, what was the reason? So when you're looking at it and deciding if you want to bring these games back, like take Killzone that always appears. Other than the enemy design, do you think the vast majority of people really care about the lore of Killzone or care about getting another Killzone? I don't, but I definitely see Resistance, Killzone, Gravity Rush, SOCOM, and Infamous. But you know, what do you guys think? What have we not mentioned that you think? Somebody mentioned Demolition Derby, but again, those games are a time where you could get by with a simple game like that. But now they're just modes, right? If you look at Wreckfest, and Wreckfest 2 is coming. Wreckfest already has a Demolition Derby mode, and it's excellent. And so the idea of like, let's now make a full-on Demolition Derby game doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when the sequel's coming to this. And this is just one of many, many modes that are in the game. So that's part of it, right? Even Twisted Metal, you can talk about Twisted Metal, but you can also play Grand Theft Auto Car Combat, where you can, or Fortnite Car Combat. They just did a whole season of Car Combat, right? And you can get out, you can fly, and there's all these things you can do that you can never do in Twisted Metal. Jack and Daxter needs the Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart treatment. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, one of my favorite games from Sony of this generation, was one of their weakest sellers. So I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense. Motorstorm. So Rocker Matt, what I would say is maybe if the budget is right, you could argue for a arcade racing game that has modes like Motorstorm and has Demolition Derby, but just making another Motorstorm game, I don't think makes financial sense. It barely makes financial sense to make any arcade racing game unless you're Mario Kart. Maybe if Sony did fucking, PlayStation Kart, that would be something. BT Maverick, are you muted? No, I see you. I think they should bring back Heavenly Sword, says Jarvie, but keep the same combat. God of War is going in a different direction. Oh, okay. Could be interesting. Yeah. Sly Cooper, I think, Connor, the real issue with Sly Cooper to me is that the pure stealth in platforming. Like, I think the character of Sly Cooper is great. I think on one hand, I want to say, let's see them make a big open world Sly Cooper game. But even that, man, if you look at Astrobot sales, if you look at Ratchet sales, Sony historically, even when they've got what many people consider the Game of the Year nominee, Sony historically struggles to sell family titles, even great ones. Sackboy's Big Adventure is fucking great. Nobody showed up for it. So I don't know if they're ever going to get out of that. I thought Astro would get them out of that, and I'm very curious to see what the sales are over the holidays. But I thought Astrobot would be, because enough time has passed between the nostalgia for the adults that now have kids, that it would start to become a bigger family brand. But at least what we saw with the last sales figures is it's done well, and it didn't cost that much comparatively, but it wasn't some big hit. Yeah, Salvador, no thank you. All right, fellas. Well, look, that's the show. That's today's show. That is, so what this is called, so you know. And let me know in the chat what you think, because the idea would be this Jaffe Talks games, like I said at the beginning, would be one of the early morning options, because we want to stream in the morning and later in the afternoon. Later in the afternoon is all Gabbin' and Games every Monday through Friday. And that's what you know. It's the news of the day. And then in the morning, we would have a show that's like prepping for Gabbin' and Games. We might have a show that is just the Jaffe stream of random topics. We'd have Jaffe Talks games, where it is more like, here are the 3 topics we're talking about. And it's very, very focused. And it's more about philosophy ideas of games and design and less about the news of the day. So the question really is, would you want this to be one of the rotation morning shows, or you're not a big fan? Let me know in the comments if you're watching after the fact. Let me know on Twitter, Discord, wherever you can find me. I'd love to know if we want to keep this particular one going. But starting tomorrow, We are back with a morning show and an afternoon Gabbing and Games. The morning show for tomorrow is probably going to be a prep show, but we'll see. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. So, but there you go. That's today's show. I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope you spent some of it here on Gabbing and Games. Consider a membership, subscription, like, tell your friends, ring the bell, all that good shit. But there you go. That's it, baby. It's good to see you guys again. It's good to be back. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, hopefully. And stay safe and have a good rest of your evening. Bye, you guys.